Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen D. Kelly, and this is the Stephen D. Kelly Show. Welcome. This is TruthCat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. I have to look twice, make sure we're recording, make sure we're broadcasting. Yeah, let's see. We're broadcasting, we're recording, nothing wrong. You know, it's getting rough. It's getting stressful. Of course, obviously I don't complain about these things. I kind of marvel at how some of the small things that stress me out when I think about the mission and how grand and, earth shaking this mission is, and how some of these stupid little things can cause me stress. I think, wait a minute, how could this be more stressful than going after billionaires and such? Anyway, so first of all, again, like I said, we're actually broadcasting and recording, and I don't see anything going wrong. But for sure, this is the last time I'm going to be able to use Skype. They even at the beginning, they had a thing. They basically tried to get me to switch over right now before I could even use the thing again one last time. And now I understand that I have to upgrade to Windows 11 or 12 or 13, 14, whatever the hell it is right now. Obviously, that's not something that's going to happen. I barely want to run 10 or whatever it is on some of the machines. Let me see, how many machines have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 computers, PCs, desktops, not even counting laptops that will need to have that done. At least 2 just to be able to broadcast. Let me see. Yeah, at least 2 just to be able to broadcast. So that's, I don't know, I may end up having to do it, but it's like as much fun and headache and tribulations as I have to go through with Windows already. I mean, do I really want to be exporting all my Skype data to a new Windows program? I mean, my God, let's just bend over and spread your cheeks and cough, please. That's basically what it feels like. So, I don't know. But again, I procrastinate. I'm a procrastinator. It's really bad. Sometimes you think, well, how could that be? But yes, I do. And that's probably because I just don't like having to deal with stress. My life before this life, I had the stresses of everyone else, having to make money and support the family and pay the bills, lots and lots and lots of bills. That's pretty stressful. And that's a reoccurring thing every month. It starts over. As soon as you pay off your credit card, you want to go out and spend money and put more debt on there. Anyway, so yeah, I haven't had to deal with that, but I guess I'll recount some of the stresses I'm having to deal with, because I guess that's important. And then I'm going to also try to address some of the important things that people were asking for clarification. Mostly, well, let's see. You know who you are, but you guys were asking about intentions and actions, and I can see, I can see the not the confusion, perhaps maybe the vagueness of it all. So perhaps that'll be something we can dive into after I get through my pissing and moaning first. Let's see, where shall I start? Well, gosh, it's April. The best thing about, what can I say? It is spring, and I really do enjoy the greenery of the grass, and the plants are all looking wonderful, and that is probably truly one of the things I give thanks for. I go out there and, if I gotta die, at least I'm gonna get to experience some nice yard. The bougainvillea is blooming really nice, and then there's this white jasmine, and it's gonna bloom pretty soon, and it's like, wow, it's just gonna be incredible. I can't wait. But otherwise, am I motivated to go out there and pull weeds and such? No. I'm barely motivated to go out there and water and do everything that I need to do to keep everything alive. But But you know, sometimes I do. I'll get up and I'll think, you know, wow, I'm really thirsty. I'm going to go make myself a drink. My time to get that iced tea going. I'm like, no, wait, I got to go water the grass first. That's like, well, I'm hungry. I need to go make a sandwich. Like, oh no, hang on. I got to go put some bird food in the feeder, or feed the cats, or make sure the cat in the backyard is taken care of properly. Yeah, that's kind of, you know, I think responsibility says, yes, you have to take care of yourself first, but sometimes, you know, it's more interesting to be concerned about somebody else. It's just like your problems, you know, my problems, my stresses. Well, it's easier for me to forget about them if I'm thinking about somebody else's stresses. But now I guess it's getting to the point to where other people's stresses are, well, I have to deal with my stuff first. And let me just get this out of the way. I am having continued difficulty with La Puente. I don't want to call it difficult because that would be suggest that it is difficult, and I don't really understand why I feel any more stressed about this now than I did, say, a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever. But I think mostly it was because not that long ago I had a certain amount of trust in the system or faith, you know, kind of a naive belief that not every judge is corrupt, or not every person in the legal profession is corrupt, or that the entire system isn't innately corrupt. Pretty much on every level, local, state, national, etc. You know, I deal with this ridiculous amount of corruption. You know, obviously under the Getty, it's strictly corruption, and you figure, wow, it's just like, it's so massive, the corruption and the criminal activity that's going on. And then when you look at the people connected, I mean, if I work my way down the chain from, say, like Gordon Getty to Gavin Newsom, I look at all the incredible things Gavin Newsom is doing, and you know, obviously it's criminal and it's getting worse. I mean, you know, in California, here's one of the things. They're going to pass a law now in California. This is one of the most incredible things. It makes me so angry. But, you know, obviously the policies of Newsom and company have really destroyed or furthered the destruction of this state, at least when it comes to business and that sort of thing. And one of the things, that laws that they're just now passed, was that if you're a business and you vacate your premises and leave the state because of the whatever taxes, regulation, liberal policies, you are now going to be fined and taxed on your property that's vacant. So in other words, if you're take for instance, down the street from me, there is a Walgreens drugstore. And if you've been following the news, just like so many other retail companies that are subject to massive amounts of theft and what have you because of degradation in the neighborhoods, they have vacated a lot of their properties and left them there. Now, the one on the corner from me is the same thing, but this is happening all over. So now, if you're a business and you've done this, you're going to be taxed. So obviously they're adding insult to injury there, but it goes on and on and on. But I have hope. Obviously, my ultimate hope again is the Getty thing, and certainly I can't wait to strike that blow. But the thing that's kind of stressing me out right now is that for the last year or so, whatever, I've been tangling with the city over my issue in the front yard, and of course the judge fucked me over really, really bad, and I consider myself partially responsible for allowing him to do it and being so naive to not even see it coming, and having all that faith in the system up to that point. Obviously now I know that I have to go at it in a much more forceful way, and I've had I did get a little bit of advice from some people coming. I'm getting ready to start my next phase of the onslaught, and obviously, I do want to again solicit anyone out there that can be of assistance to contact me. I mean, legally, and obviously, we're getting to the point now where I'll probably be dealing with the ACLU or something, but. One of the things, though, I do want to say, and this is something that I'm a little perturbed about, is that I realized that when I had gone to do this court thing, and I had sat there in the back of that court and watched so much nonsense and BS go on before I was finally allowed to do my case, and of course, by the time I got up there, the room was completely empty. The judge was like, saved me for the last thing. He's ready to go home for the day. And he finally sees me. So obviously he had no motivation whatsoever to properly administer justice in my case. But the worst part of it all was that there were no witnesses. He was under no pressure. And I've learned, you guys wanted to hear about El Dorado, but one of the things I did learn in all the nonsense that I've been through with El Dorado is that, yes, having bodies in court makes a difference when you're dealing with these corrupt people, because they are public personas and they are very sensitive to that. Now, I've gone to council meetings. I remember I went to an LA council meeting where they were debating closing down gun shows on county property. And of course, this meant the LA County Fairgrounds, which had a gun show there, which was the largest in California, that one particular gun show. And of course, they shut it down. And I went there to go there, try to present my case. But I remember Zev Yaroslavsky. They have these big, tall chairs. They're like much taller than they go over the back of their heads. And they just turn around and they show you the back of your chair, and they don't give a damn what you have to say. And these, of course, are elected officials, but what they do care about is getting elected. So when there is public pressure, when there are witnesses, family, whatever, it all helps. So I just want to throw this out there that, unlike last time, I mean, I should have got Jose to come with me, but if I'm going to do this again, if I have to go to court anymore for anything, I want some bodies to be with me. Now, I know everyone says, well, I'll show up. You tell me when. I'll go to the Getty. I'll do this. I'll show up. Come on, guys. I couldn't get people to protest. I can't get people who do hardly anything. You've been asking me, people still ask me, what can I do? What can I do? And of course, people like Jessica, you know what to do. Everything you do is already way more than everybody else. Well, I mean, relative, obviously, the cadre of hardcore troops that have been involved in this for so long put out a lot of effort every day. But there are obviously thousands of people relatively close to the mission who just kind of observe. And again, I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to address the question of what more can you do? Because I guess people, you want to hear about what's up with me, what's up with the mission, what's up with what's new with the enemy. I'm not even talking about Trump now, but so let me just try to address that again. Personally, I think that the personal tests and tribulations, the trials that I have to go through, are obviously a source of stress and a source of distraction. But at the same time, just like anything I do, it does provide an education, and it does help me to see places where I am weak, such as court procedure and basic law stuff. I mean, it's just like, obviously, I shouldn't have to know these things. It's just like having to worry about upgraded my computer and all this nonsense that they expect me to do. I shouldn't have to worry about that stuff. I should have help. But I guess back to it, what I'm trying to say is that I just hope that when the time comes I do have to go back to court again, that I can actually get some bodies to go with me. That would be nice. And unfortunately, I don't want to manifest that I don't expect it to happen, but I just know that people are busy, and I know it's difficult. But if I don't put that out there, then I don't have anything to complain about, and you don't have to. The only way you're going to be responsible to following through is if I actually ask you to do it. So that's why I'm doing it. That kind of brings me back to the whole intention thing. But this is sort of important, because it gets into the whole grand scheme of the universe and how things work, because people, it's like they ask me, well, what level is on Jesus on? What do our prayers do? How do these things work? How do we make these things happen? All this stuff. Ultimately, yes, this is intention, but it's also manifesting. So in a way, you could say that manifesting and intention are essentially the same thing, assuming that your intention is to manifest. And I would assume that most people, when they have an intention, it is to manifest a change. So I suspect that I would suggest that those two words are essentially the same thing. So when you're asking me about intention and manifesting, I think I want to talk about manifesting. Now, I need to preface this before I go any further, because obviously when it comes to manifesting and trying to alter reality or force the universe to cause the holographic reality you're experiencing to be adjusted in such a way, I have to point out some of these things that should be obvious, that you should take into consideration. Like, reality has a certain limitation. It has limitations. If you want to manifest and just know that you can fly and jump off a building, that's not going to work. Reality is not going to grant you that. Okay, so obviously, when you are looking to manifest, you have to try to do it, you have to be not just responsible, but realistic. Now, I'm not going to say that what I'm doing with the Getty mission falls into that category, because first of all, it was the Getty people themselves that told me that there's nothing they can do to stop this and that it is inevitable. And I understand this, and I know that it's true, and I understand that the only thing that stops something from being inevitable is improper manifestation. Now I'm pretty good at manifesting. I've manifested quite a few things in my life that surprised myself when they came to be. And even now, I still do. I still do quite a bit. And I would suggest that when people talk about prayer, that this thing that they talk about prayer, or this thing that they talk about when they say that they're praying, or they are asking about the effectiveness of it, is that is manifesting in its purest form. So even if let's just put it this way. Well, some of the stuff, obviously, when we manifest things, they're personal, and we don't share that stuff with others. But naturally, when you have desires, these are things that you manifest, and then they happen, and you can be pleasantly surprised, or you can be enjoying the affirmation that you're knowing that something is possible is true, and that your powers of causing this reality to change are visible. So I want to just remind you, I mean, because I know, well, like for instance, and I'm not going to try to go too personal here, but because I know that, let's just put it this way. Your dog is not doing good, and I've done a lot of healing on animals where when they get older, they start having issues. And of course, I myself have lots of animals, and I've had animals where I didn't want to live longer than those animals. I wanted them to outlive me, and when that didn't happen, I didn't know what I was going to do, because sometimes an animal can fill a void, especially if you're in a situation like I am, where you've lost family and you've got massive heart chakra issues. Let's just say that, heart chakra issues, and animals can help fill that void very well, and they do so for quite a few people. And I'm not saying that's a perfect scenario or situation. Obviously, it's not. But the point I'm trying to make is that no matter how much you love your animal, your little friends, you can't force them or manifest them to live longer than they need to live or they want to live. And you have to understand that very often your animal will itself to live longer than it really wants to, just for you. And you have to realize that that's what's going on. And on a bigger picture, I kind of want you guys to understand that animals, of course, have souls. They're not the same as human. An animal spirit, entity, soul, whatever you want to call it, is not the same as a human soul, which is obviously much closer to the Creator. But the animals, they do. They reincarnate just like we do, but they do it quicker, much quicker. They have shorter lives, and they have much shorter reincarnation periods. And the animal spirit world is quite active. Let's just say this. It's very active. There's so many animals. I mean, let's put it this way. There's more animals than there are humans. This is the way it works. The way when we talk about the matrix of the density system, the very top of the pyramid, level 9, is a singular entity, which of course is the Creator. And as you go down those levels to the very bottom, level number 1, each level is populated with more and more entities. The Holy Spirit is very limited, but there are more entities in the Holy Spirit level than there are just above it at the Creator, which is only 1. But below the Holy Spirit level of the Ascended Masters, there's many more Ascended Masters than there are spirit entities that make up the Holy Spirit. And just like that, there are more animals than there are humans, and there are more inanimate objects than there are animals. I'll tell you, I went on a hike once up Mount Baldy, Mount San Jacinto. It's like 11,000 feet over here, not too far from me. But I remember walking up these ravines of the East Fork San Gabriel River, and the boulders, the massive boulders that came tumbling down from this mountain, who knows when, years ago. We would walk past these boulders on our way up to the destination. Well, I'm not even talking about Baldy. I'm talking about going up the East Fork. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you see these things, these massive boulders, what struck me was, to me, they were first density entities. And I thought, it's like, my gosh, there's so many of them. There's so many. It was kind of a weird way of thinking of things. But so I know Grok hates it when I do the tangent shit, but here's getting back to the animals. When you honor your animal, when you take care of your animal, any animal, not just your animal, but other people's animals, stray animals, wild animals, dead animals in the street, when you honor those animals, you respect them, you bless them. Obviously, you have to eat, but if you're going to eat, this is why you pray over your food, because you're blessing and respecting. You're showing respect for the carcass before you consume it. And the reason why you do this is because they're watching. The animal spirits are watching. It's obviously, there's other reasons for doing this, but you do service to others to an animal, and you think nobody's going to see it, nobody's going to talk about it, other animals, or how do I know if the other animals even care? They care. They care. The ones running around alive, they may not care, but the spirits care. They're paying attention. They see what you're doing. They expect you to do the worst. And then if you are someone special and you can show them the respect, they see that. They notice that. They honor that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that as hard as it is, sometimes you have to do the right thing, and that is to not force the animal to be there just for you. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on that any more than that. I apologize for that. So that's just an example of how manifesting is really something you have to be responsible for. Healing. The Pope here died. Now, I know this sounds contrived, but yeah, I do believe that when he was having the issues with the pneumonia, that he had the same kind of results as other people I've did healing on. He had almost instantaneous, not instant, but that night, it was gone that night. His respiratory issues were gone that night. Kind of miraculous. But here he is dead, and if you've seen the photos of him laying in the coffin, he's got a big bruise on the side of his head. They say that he died from a cerebral hemorrhage. That sounds like a bruise on the brain, the cranium. In other words, it sounds to me like he died because his head smashed into the ground or some other hard object. So who knows? Did he just trip and fall on the ground and die, or did somebody do that? Who knows? But obviously, there's not much I could do about that. I was a little disappointed when I heard about that. I thought, wow, I can't heal that. Somebody dies instantly. But I guess the reason why I'm saying that is because I know, back to that whole thing about responsibility and manifesting. Ultimately, I suppose that if you're trying to, and I'm not going to suggest that any of us can do this or should want to do this, but interfere with the universe, interfere with destiny, someone's destiny, you can't. You can't, because it's like sliding glass doors, or you go in one door, go in the other. The odds are still the same. Destiny is still the same. You're just going to get there via a different path. So maybe he didn't die of pneumonia, but he did die of a smashed side of the head several weeks later. So what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that this power that we have to alter reality, ultimately, you're not going to change something that is destined to happen. Now, changing a timeline, that's different. I was thinking about kids that are homeschooled, and how some people say that a kid that isn't going into public school or whatever isn't getting socialized and is becoming someone who doesn't know how to deal with on a social level. I kind of think that the real thing that this whole social business does is program, and it's the 100 monkeys. So it's more like, do you want your kid to be exposed to that, and do you want that kind of programming? Do you want them to be raised to think that there's a dozen genders and global warming is real, chemtrails don't exist, on and on and on. Israel's our greatest ally. 9/11 was because of jet planes flying into the buildings, that kind of thing. Do I want that? No. The reason why I'm even suggesting that or even bringing that up is because it all plays into this business of manifesting and intention and ultimately changing timelines in such a way that are going to affect the entire world, everybody, or great masses of humans. I want to say one thing first, and that is that I do not believe that all of us have the power to do that. Some of us do, and those of us that do, of course, are the ones that really have the responsibility to go out and use that power. They're the ones that they talk about in the protocols, where the protocol says, well, it only takes one highly motivated individual to basically alter the thinking of a million other people. These are the people I'm talking about. Those are the people that can change timelines. And ultimately, if something is possible, and certainly the Getty mission is possible, and achieving this is possible. I mean, it is certainly destiny. It's certainly something that is well overdue. That's probably one of the greatest examples I can give you of manifestation. And I would suggest that when you begin to learn about the power of manifestation, the power of intention, that the first temptation, normal human temptation, is to use that to change things in your life, personal things that will help you, enrich you personally, as opposed to everybody in the world at the same time. So obviously, if I want to manifest that I win my court thing, or that I don't die unhappy, little things like that. Is that a waste of time? I don't know. But the mission, on the other hand, the Occupy the Getty mission, and the desire to free the children and free the world and remove the corruption and release the technology and release the wealth and all these things that we're going to accomplish, that affects so many people in such a big way. It's kind of a no-brainer. And I think that's one of the reasons why the powers that be know that they have no ability to stop this thing, is because the benefits are universal and unlimited. What's the downside? The downside. Well, the only downside would be like the same as if you were being born and you had to give up leaving the womb to be born. The downside of that, of course, would be you have to leave the snuggly location, but you're going to be moving into a situation that is certainly has much broader opportunities. It's the same thing. If you think things are going to change in a negative way, it's only because you can't even begin to fathom or comprehend the positive changes for the entire world that will happen when we complete this mission. It's really that simple. So I guess, and I don't think this is selfish of me, but I think what I want to tell you is that when you're wanting to understand the powers of manifestation, you want to learn the powers of intention. Obviously, sure, I want you to practice this throughout your life. It's just like when you're in a car, you're driving in a car, you should be always having the intention that you are safe and that nothing's going to happen to you and that you know that you're safe. When you pray, Lord, protect me while I'm driving. No, that's not how it's done. You say, Lord, thank you. Thank you for always having protected me and for continuing to protect me, because that's how manifestation works. You know it's a done deal. You have no doubt. You never have any doubt. That's how it works, and that's how the Getty thing is going to change the world. I have no doubt. I can doubt a lot of things, but that I have no doubt about. So I'm not going to go too much further, guys. I know the last show was just so screwed up. I was on a roll and everything, and it's just the way it is. I will say this, though. Let me just point this out before I go off on some tangents here, just to kind of fill some space. But last week, of course, was Easter Sunday. And Easter Sunday happened to fall on 4/20. And you all know what that means. But the other thing that was interesting about this particular Easter was that it coincided with the Eastern Orthodox Easter. The Russian Greek Orthodox Church Easter celebration happened at the same time as the Catholic Christian Easter holiday. So that was a big deal. So here we had Easter, we had Orthodox Easter, and we had 4/20 all on the same day. Just incredible. So all those people, they get up early and stand in line at the dispensary so that they could get their 4/20 specials, and then they can go straight to church afterwards, right? Something like that. Such a special, special time. This stress here, escapism. I can't leave the show without bitching just a little bit. But obviously, what's going on in Palestine is really, really bad. Fucking Donald Trump. And it's like Syria. Syria's dead now. To me, it's like a dead nation. It's just horrible what happened. But they're getting ready to do the same thing to Iran. They're going to do it. And if I've learned anything in my experiences with the CIA and the military industrial complex, is that when they're going to go to war, they go to war. When they're talking about going to war, it's because they're going to war. This is not something that is going to be negotiated away. This is a done deal. Done deal. It's just like when they were talking about Saddam Hussein and his, what was it? His cake, nuclear material, and all this BS. That was written in stone. I mean, my God, weapon systems that they intended to use in Kuwait and in Iraq had to be built. And I knew, there was one time when I was working at SK Industries, I had a customer come in, and he worked on KC-130, I think one of the gunships, the planes that fly around, jets fly around, whatever they are, planes, I guess they got propellers. And they had miniguns. I mean, during the Vietnam, they had miniguns. Well, for Iraq, Desert Storm and all that, they took out the miniguns and they put in 105 millimeter cannons. I believe the same cannon that they used in the Abrams tank. I don't think it was 155 millimeter howitzer. I'm pretty sure it was 105 millimeter smooth bore cannon, the same thing they used in the tank. But they flew that around up in the sky, lobbing down high explosive tank shells from the sky. But anyway, the point is that a guy came into my office and he said, yeah, we're going to war. We got this order. We're building these things up. We're putting these cannons inside these planes. It's going to take us about 3 months or however long to complete the order. So it's like, yeah, whatever they say in the media, it's just BS because they already know when they're going to do it. So everything's going to be delivered on time. Now, the other day, I was going to Walmart. I was getting some folders, legal folders, paper folders for stashing paper. It's incredible. People don't use paper anymore. It's like it's all digital. But I on my way there, I saw this train. I'm like, well, that's an interesting train. And on closer inspection, it's gone by. It was a super long train. It was loaded with howitzers, cannons, and armored personnel carriers. Now, it was interesting because a couple of things. A, the armored personnel carriers, they almost look Soviet. I mean, I swear, they didn't look like your traditional American. Maybe it was a new design. I don't know, something I'm not familiar with. But the cannons, on the other hand, they were either kind of an very old variation, or maybe perhaps a lighter variation. Now, I assumed right away this stuff was going to Iran. It's going to end up in Iran, which it may do. But I just find out that the United States right now and other countries are pumping huge amounts of weapons into the Philippines. Now, I noticed one thing that caught my attention was that India apparently has supplied the Philippines with hundreds of hypersonic anti-ship missiles. I assume to use against China in the South China Sea. This is kind of amazing. And on top of that, apparently, the United States is flooding the Philippines with military hardware. Kind of like when they flooded Poland with military hardware years ago, which of course all ended up in Ukraine. So I suspect that what's going on right now, obviously, they're turning the Philippines into a proxy, just like they did with Ukraine. They're going to pump up the Philippines with military hardware so that they can deal with China, which is going to be kind of bizarre because, of course, the Philippines is just a bunch of islands, whereas China is this huge mass of land. I don't see how islands can really defend themselves against a continent. But either way, this is a worrisome development and a significant strategic development at the same time, because it just reminds me of when I was dealing with the Philippines back in the, 2090s? Well, yeah, 2000 it was. The United States didn't give a damn about the Philippines. Didn't give a damn. This was during the Clinton administration. Of course, now, suddenly, we care about the Philippines. Why? Because we're going to use them as a proxy against China. So, wow, that's how things change. How things change. I'm not, you know what? I don't really feel like going on. I could bitch about Europe. I could talk about, hell, every day in Europe. It's a big joke right now. And of course, to all my European listeners and fans, I'm not trying to suggest anything bad to you, but my God, the EU is dead. All these little countries thinking that they could band together and somehow become a great power on the level of Russia or the United States or China. It's like, it's a joke. And the very fact that this farce continues is why we have people like Kaja Kallas from Estonia running around thinking that somehow she is significant or has some sort of power or influence. It's an absolute joke. Where in the hell, how in the hell does an itty bitty little tiny country like Estonia or Lithuania or Latvia ever get off thinking that they have a say in the the doings of the great powers. It's preposterous. It's just preposterous. You know, I I have to wonder, all these years when I look at the United States and what our relationship with Europe, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Obviously, that's where most of us came from, at least those of us that are, myself, European ancestry. So we always have that reason for caring about it. But at the same time, well, it reminds me of back when George Washington said that the United States, America had to, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, stay out of the troubles of Europe. Don't become involved in the issues of Europe. And of course, that's exactly what we're doing. We've always done it, but we know what it is. It's not these little countries. Those are not the issues. Certainly they were. But when he was talking about the issues of Europe, George Washington, he was a contemporary of Jacob Frank, Simon Weishaupt, and Meyer Amschel Rothschild, and the formation of the Illuminati and the subsequent takeover of the Masonic organization of which he was a part of. So I would suspect that when he's talking about the problems and negative situations coming out of Europe, what he's really talking about are the issues having to deal with the Rothschilds and those things. I'm going to leave it at that. But we all know that the Revolutionary War, the 1776 war in this country against England, it was not fought over tea tax. It was fought over the Rothschild Bank of England fiat money that was being imposed upon the United States. And the situation has never changed. And the reason why we fight and go to war or do anything in this world has never changed. It's the same people, the same entities, and they are satanic. That's just putting it really simple. All right, people? AC 130. Thank you, Rob. AC 130 gunship. Yep, Lockheed. Anyway, people. All right, I'm going to go. I apologize for not having a wonderful show for you, but again, like I said, it's been a stressful day, and this issues with Skype and everything, and my legal stuff is just, it's not fun, obviously, and it's a distraction. But no matter how much I detest having to deal with crap like this, I still am here for you guys. Okay? Anyway, I hope you're here for me. And that doesn't mean send me money. I mean, if you do want to send me a donation, of course, it's PayPal. Fortunately, PayPal isn't being taken over by Microsoft. They're not saying, oh, your PayPal's going away. No, but my Skype is going away. But if you want to help me out, again, the Skype is StephenKelly714@yahoo.com. Please say friend or family, and I do appreciate everything. And I don't even pay attention. It's not a whole lot anymore. My Social Security pretty much covers everything, all my expenses. But yeah, I've got a little bit of expenses involved with this legal stuff. So yeah, anything helps. And aside from that, let me just say that if I can get past this local legal personal nonsense, it'll make life a lot easier for me to focus on the much bigger things that we need to that I need to give you 100% on. So if you could help me out with this, okay? I know you want to, and it's hard because a lot of you just have, you want me to explain everything, but basically, and Ray, the searches that you did on that AI stuff, I'm very, very important. I'm certainly using that as reference material, so don't delete that because I need that stuff. And anyone else out there that has any suggestions, help, can come to court or as an attorney, anything of that nature. give me a call. Send me an email, law17gun@aol.com. Okay? Don't confuse that with the Stephen Kelly 714 at PayPal. It's not for correspondence. All right. What a night. Okay? Look at that. We made it through the show. Microsoft has not done anything nasty to me tonight. Guess they'll do that here very soon. How about that, JD Vance, huh? I should be president, right? It's been one of those days. They're getting me, man. I swear these Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, whatever, even Elon Musk. Oh my God, Elon Musk has become quite the enemy. What a dick. Anyway, guys, again, I wish you could come to court with me. Count me in. All right, you guys. I don't know what you spent. Anyway, we'll talk, okay? We'll talk. Meet me in the group, okay? Correspond, and we'll figure out. Telegram is going to be the only thing. Obviously, if Skype's gone for me, I'm going to have to get my Telegram working. I'll have to get another cell phone, a couple of cell phones, so I can have different computers with their own Telegram account. That's all I can do, and I got to do that soon. Anyway, life's wonderful, isn't it? All right, guys. Thank you so much for being with me and for listening to me babble and what have you. And I hope that you'll choose to do it again next week, God willing. And I'll talk to you then, okay? So, again, my name is Stephen D. Kelly, and this is the Stephen D. Kelly Show, and we are TruthCat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. Hey, did I mention that it was April 24th, 2025? Nope, I didn't? Okay. Well, it's now 6:52 p.m. here, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, mostly sunny. Yep. I'll talk to you guys, all right? Good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.